I've learned several things in dating. One thing I learned is you never know who you're going out with. You might know who they want you to think they are. You might have an idea of who they think they are, and then you have who you really think they might be. Well, I've dated different men. I've dated men that I've worked with, and I've dated men that I met at work, and I've dated men that I met at church, and I've dated men that I've met at the bar, and I've dated men that I met through Match.com. Well, Match has this wonderful algorithm where they pull all this information together and they find your perfect match. For some reason, Match thinks that I like weirdos. Well, this one guy, we were texting back and forth and we started calling, and then finally we decided we were going to go to dinner. I drive and I pick him up at work. One thing I learned, always drive. We went out to Applebee's, 2 for $16.99 and a free appetizer. Great meal. It was actually quite good. And the gentleman talked, and he told me how wonderful he is, and how wonderful he's always been, and how wonderful he's going to be in the future. And I just sort of sat and shook my head. And as we're leaving and I go to take him home, he says, can we stop at Walmart on the way home? And I said, okay, why? He said, well, I need to get some diabetic supplies. Well, you know, you stop for someone who wants to get diabetic supplies. But I learned something more important at that moment than I've ever learned on a date before. Walmart sells test strips and monitors for far cheaper than you can ever get through your insurance. Good information to know. Well, as we're driving on back to his house, he starts talking about this big event they're having at work, this banquet with food and drinks and music and dancing. He had me at dancing. I love to dance. So 3 weeks later, I find myself picking him up, and we're walking into the Hilton in Harrisburg, and I'm all glittery, and he's all glittery, and the room's all beautiful, and they escort us up to one of the front tables in the room. It's an awards meeting, and he's planning on getting an award. So we go up, and he introduces me to some of his coworkers, and he has a couple of drinks, and he has a couple of drinks, and he has a couple of drinks. Now, this guy is a big guy. He's 6'4", 300 pounds. So I figure that he can hold his alcohol, you know. I had one drink because, you know, I'm driving, and it's time to let everybody up, and they come and let us go up to the banquet table. Well, he jumps out of his chair and he runs up to the banquet line. I'm like 7 people behind him in line. You know. Oh, nice banquet, beautiful prime rib and rotten potatoes. Yeah, that's what my kids call them, rotten potatoes. And, you know, some asparagus, and I go and I sit at the table, and he's sitting there with 3 plates of food in front of him, piled to the top. This guy's supposed to be a diabetic. You know, I'm beginning to wonder a little bit about this guy. Well, after dinner, the special speaker gets up, and it's a room full of salesmen. So he's telling them, you know, set your goal, you can meet it, whatever you want, you can do it, and they're all, yay, you know. Then they begin the awards. Well, eventually the CEO gets up, and he's going to give the award for Salesman of the Year. This guy's up for Salesman of the Year, and I thought, oh, that's pretty impressive. Well, he starts talking about how generous this gentleman is, and how wonderful he is, and how he helps all of his co-workers, and how everyone that ever fills out, you know, a report on him, the customers say how absolutely fantastic this guy is. And then, you know, he's going to be one day coming after my job, you know, the CEO. And he says, and the winner of the Salesman of the Year is Joe Smith. I'm not with Joe Smith. He stands up and he almost flips the table. The centerpiece is raving back and forth. Apples and grapes and raisins are flying all over the room. He picks up his drink and throws it somewhere in the direction of the podium. The glass breaks. He's cussing and he's screaming and he's yelling, and he stomps out of the room. Total silence. His friend reaches over and pats my hand and he says, "That's okay, he gets like that all the time. He'll be all right." very much for sharing that, and I picked up my purse and my coat, and I went out the other door. Maya Angelou says that when someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time, and I'm out.